Warning, a fundamental change is coming to the economy and to the banking system. Now, whenever you hear the word fundamental change, that means the fundamentals, the foundation of the system is about to be changed. The economy, a fundamental change of the economy is being proposed by a new nomination to take over the entire money system of the United States, which of course affects the entire world. It will change the banking system. This is the most radical thing we have ever seen proposed. So in this video, I'm going to break down what is actually happening, who has been nominated to take over this, to consolidate this power, what this fundamental change to the economy and the banking system they're proposing, what this will mean for your bank accounts, for the money in there, and for the economy overall, and so much more. This is information you need to know. It is the biggest change to banking and to the economy that we have ever seen proposed if this goes through. So let's go. All right, now if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark Moss, and I make these videos to change the way you think about money because almost everything you've learned has been wrong. Now, we are talking about a fundamental change to the economy, to the banking system, changing the foundation of the entire thing, changing the whole thing. Now, 100 years ago, Henry Ford said that if the American people knew how the banking system worked, there would be a revolution before the morning. That quick. If anybody found out before the morning, they would overthrow the system. Now, that was 100 years ago. Imagine how much worse it is today. And of course, there's a reason why the people do not know how the system works. That's because they don't want you to know. It has been purposely withheld from your education, and whatever you have heard is most likely wrong, which is exactly why we make these videos for you each and every week. Now, as bad as it might be, as bad as it might have been, what's being proposed right now will fundamentally change, to their point, fundamentally change the entire system of the banking system and the economy overall. So let's go ahead and just jump in real quick. If you see where I'm looking at my screen right here, Biden's fundamental economic changes. And so basically the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, said in the mixer that they want to take this chance to transform America's economy. The president wants to do something historic that will fundamentally change the economy, Psaki declared. He's seeking to make, quote, fundamental changes. Again, quote, fundamentally change the economy, and then even, quote, fundamentally change people's lives. Now, what are these fundamental changes, and will they be good or will they be bad? They're going to change your lives. You should know about them. Let's dig in a little bit more into this. Now, we can see here, Psaki admits that Biden is exploiting COVID. I want to jump into this. There's a quote here. The president wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is exactly the time to do that. Now let's just go ahead and hear this video clip of her saying it herself.
The president wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is exactly the time to do that.
Okay, so there you go. You heard it directly from her mouth. They are using this point in time to fundamentally change the economy. Now, what are we talking about? Let's go ahead and dig in a little bit deeper. So here we can see President Joe Biden wants to put an actual communist. Now, we don't use this word lightly. Not just a self-proclaimed radical, all right? We're talking about university law professor Saul Amarova, but he wants to put her in charge of the nation's banking system. Now, when we say the word communist, we don't just mean that lightly. What we mean is that actually Amarova graduated from the Soviet Union's Moscow State University in 1989. She's actually from Soviet Moscow. She graduated from there on the Lenin Personal Academic Scholarship. As recently as 2019, she was still praising the USSR's economic system as in some ways superior to our own. So as recently in 2019, she said that the USSR's economic system was superior to the United States. We're going to dig into that in a second. She said that the market doesn't always know best. The market doesn't know best. The people that make up the market don't know best. A few people in a room, somewhere else on the other side of the world, they know best. All right, so let me basically break this down. Actually, I'm going to break this down in a second when we compare that. There's a reason that the USSR is defunct and the US isn't. All right. So she says it was better, but there's a reason why it's defunct. We're going to look at that. Omarova's goal is the eventual elimination of private banking and the establishment of the Federal Reserve as the nation's only bank. In her own words, let's look at this quote here. The core idea is to allow U.S. citizens and lawful residents, governments, banking firms, entities, etc., to open accounts directly with the Federal Reserve, thus bypassing private depository institutions. So she wants to bypass the institutions. We'll go on. In a sense, it is a variation on the familiar Fed accounts or Fed coin. You've heard about that, right? Digital dollar wallets, etc. In principle, Fed accounts can be made available as an alternative to bank deposit accounts. So she says that we should just get rid of the banks and have Fed accounts. Now, if we look at this a little bit more to explain what she's talking about, let me just draw you a very crude illustration here. So let's say that right here we have the Fed. All right, this is the central bank. All right. Now, below the central bank, we have other banks. We have commercial banks, we have local banks, credit unions, etc. And then here is me wanting to get a loan for my house, my car, my RV, my boat. And so what happens is the Fed can give deposits to the banks. They can give reserves. And then when the bank loans that money to me to buy a house, car, boat, whatever, that money gets created into existence. Now, my local bank, this is like a decentralized stack in a sense, where my local bank knows me locally, knows what I need locally, knows what the market needs locally, and can decide whether they want to give me that loan or not. What she's talking about is getting rid of this entire banking stack. And so now me down here will just have an account directly with the Fed, and the Fed will have an account directly with me. That means a few guys at the Fed, somewhere in New York or who knows where they're at in the world these days, will have all the power, all the decision making over what I do in my local area in regards to banking. It's a massive power grab. Let's go on to look at a couple other things that they said here. In a way that McDonald's would never have the head of PETA as the CEO because they're vegans, right? She'd destroy the company. Biden doesn't really care. Biden nominated an actual communist to be in charge of our banks and our currency. Just so you can understand what position this is, according to the Treasury Department, this is what the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency does. So this is the role that Biden has nominated this person for. The OCC, an independent branch of the U.S. Department of the Treasury, charters, regulates, and supervises all national banks and federal savings associations, as well as federal branches and agencies. So they regulate the entire banking system, basically, right? As the New York Post reports, in an early 2021 paper titled The People's Ledger, Omarova argued for making private banks non-depository lenders, changing banking as we know it. All right. Now, she went on to support, as we said, the USSR. So let's take a look at that for just a minute. So I don't want to pull up any whatever you might consider right-wing or alternative or conspiracy news sources. Let's just go straight to Investopedia. You can see we are right here. Why did the USSR collapse economically? Because their system was so superior to the United States. Why did they fail? Well, it says right here, while the central command economy of the Soviet Union was diametrically opposed, so that means it was the opposite of market liberalism of Western nations. So the central command economy of the Soviet Union was the opposite of the free market of the West. So central command. So a command economy is basically that of centralization, globalization. So rather than try to pull apart the differences of socialism, communism, or fascism, some say one's right, one's left, forget all that. You have collectivism, you have individualism. That's it. In collectivism, they want to control the economy. So fascism, socialism, and communism, they want to command it. They want to control it and tell people what they can and can't do, what prices can and can't be, what interest rates should be, how many people should make how many things, command the economy, versus diametrically opposed to the market liberalism, the free market of Western nations. So just sum it up. So the USSR was the opposite. If we go down here, at first, at the lack of open markets providing price signals and incentives to direct economic activity led to waste and economic efficiencies. So price signals. So how do you get 330 million people in the United States or 8 billion people in the world to get the exact product you need to show up on the shelf at the exact time you need it, when a phone, let's say like your iPhone, might have thousands and thousands of parts made by hundreds or even thousands of vendors? How do all those vendors make all those parts, get them all to the right people, and get it packaged and shipped right to where you need it? How does that happen? How is that coordinated? Well, it's done by the price. If the price of something goes up in value, two things happen. One, people buy less of it. And two, manufacturers make more of it. And so it coordinates the economy. That's the price signal, as they're saying. So the lack of open markets, so because markets weren't free to work openly, the lack of open markets, which provided price signals, there was no price signals because they controlled the economy. They controlled the prices. And it also ruined the incentives to direct economy activity, led to waste and economic inefficiencies. So basically, the economy wasn't efficient, and it led to lots of waste because there was no accurate information. There was no price signals happening. That's what they're saying. It's Investopedia. The Soviets had been aware since the 50s of such long-term problems as command economy inefficiencies. So they knew since the 50s that this command economy they were doing did not work. It was very inefficient. They also were aware how adopting the knowledge and technology of developed economies could come at the expense of fostering an innovative domestic economy. All right? So they knew this. They saw the problems. But with economic growth declining and inefficiencies becoming increasingly more apparent, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. No matter what they could do, it wouldn't get better. Partial reforms to allow for more decentralized market interactions were reintroduced in the 70s. So basically, things kept getting so bad, they continued to try to command the economy. They couldn't turn it around. And so they said, all right, fine, let's still go ahead and start opening up some pieces of it. Let's start liberalizing it, freeing it. And so in the 70s, they started to open it back up. However, these early reforms failed to revive the increasingly stagnant Soviet economy. It just wouldn't work. It was too late. These little reforms, it wasn't enough. With productivity growth falling below zero by the 1980s, this ongoing poor economic performance led to a more radical set of reforms. So it wasn't working. They tried even more things under Mikhail Gorbachev while attempting to maintain socialist ideas. So they tried to do more things to open it up, but they kept the socialist ideas, which were the problem in the first place. They kept the central control over the primary societal goals. All right, so he tried to decentralize economic activity and open up the economy for foreign trade, but it wasn't enough. That is what led to the fall of the USSR. And that's exactly what she's saying, that the USSR's economy is superior, but apparently it wasn't. As a matter of fact, it's been tried over and over again, and over 100 years it's been tried many times, and never one time has it ever worked. Now let's look at the post-Soviet Russian economy, because you hear about Russia, and now they have all this power, and they're coming back. They're controlling the natural gas for all of Europe these days. So how is it that they've been able to come back? Well, still on Investopedia, let's take a look at Russia, a former communist country, all right, former communist country, stuck in the middle of a transition towards a more liberal market economy. So they're transitioning into a free market where the government doesn't tell you what to do. They don't try to command it. It's free. So they transitioned from communism to capitalism. Became the first president here. Right away, he began implementing a number of radical economic reforms, including price liberalization. Letting the prices run free markets. Let the prices be where the prices need to be so the economy can coordinate properly, including mass privatization. We can see while the financial crisis had immediate negative effects, it created conditions like having free markets that allowed Russia to achieve rapid economic expansion throughout most of the next decade. So it created the conditions, the free market, the free of the price signals, to allow for rapid economic expansion through most of the decade. The next few years, the real GDP growth reached 8.3% in 2000 and approximately 5% in 2001. 8.3%. That's massive. If any developed world could ever see those numbers again, it would be the biggest success story ever. And that's what they were able to do when they freed up their markets. Between 2000 and the end of 2002, Putin enacted a number of economic reforms, including simplifying the tax system. Simplifying it, not making it more difficult. Not like the Biden admin putting more and more and more tax regulations on the people and the banking system, right? The latest is the banking system now is to spy on you and report your checking account, anything over $600. I think now they're trying to raise it up to $10,000, and they have to report all of that to the IRS. But no, let's not make it more difficult. How about we simplify the tax system, reduce the number of tax rates? That sounds interesting. He also has brought about the simplification of business registration and licensing requirements. So basically, it makes it easier to start a business, not harder. It makes it cheaper and faster to start a business, not slower and more expensive. With average GDP growth rate of 6.9% a year, an increase of 10.5% in average real wages. Wages went up. In the United States, wages have been stagnant since the 70s. Here, they went up 10%, growth of almost 8% in real disposable income, all occurring within the period from 99 to 2008. So that's what happened. The USSR's economy was not good. That's why it collapsed. Since then, they've been on a rapid rate of growth, which is why Russia is now coming back into the world ecosystem. Of course, Biden's nomination says that the USSR's, right here, the USSR's economic system was superior in our own way. Now, one more thing I want to show you is that there's this article here, Wall Street on Parade, and they basically went and looked at the paper that she put together, 69-page paper that she wrote. You can see right here. And I want to show you a couple things that she wrote in here, what they want to do. I'm going to skip down here because I know it's going long. It says here, deposits at commercial banks would be replaced with Fed accounts. So the money you have in your account would be replaced with an account with the Fed, right? We talked about that. Compress the banking stack, get rid of the banks, go directly there. Fed accounts could be made available as an alternative to bank deposit accounts. All right, so we heard that. These accounts would also be credited automatically with regularly received federal benefits. So the Fed will pay you directly. The Social Security payments, tax refunds, other disbursements, depends on one's citizenship status. Well, we hear how they're trying to create different classes of citizens. So this depends on one's citizen statusship, as they said here. Now, this is where it starts getting real scary. The New York Fed would overtly insert itself in the stock market. So check this out. The Fed would establish a separate trading portfolio, replicating as closely as practical the market portfolio. So the Fed is going to start manipulating the stock market. If a particular asset class, such as mortgage-backed securities or technology stocks, for example, rises in market value at rates suggestive of a bubble trend, the Fed trading desk will short these securities. So if prices start going up too fast, free market prices start going up too fast, the Fed will actively short them to bring the prices back down. Or conversely, the Fed will go long on particular asset classes that appear to be artificially undervalued in order to avoid unnecessary market dislocation. So if things don't move up fast enough, they'll go long, they'll pump a bunch of money into it. Or if things go up too fast, they'll short it to bring the price back down, that's what they said. And here's where it gets even better. The Fed's ability to confiscate money from deposit accounts. They want to implement a contradictory monetary policy by debiting Fed accounts. Debiting, that means taking money out of your account, taking away people's money. This tool is to be reserved only for extreme and rare circumstances. Of course, when the Fed is unable to control inflation by raising interest rates and deploying its new asset side tools. So if the inflation starts getting away because the Fed created way too much money, don't worry, the Fed will just take money right out of your bank account so you don't go spend it, because if you don't spend it, prices won't go back up. This is who the Biden admin has put to change the banking system, the economy, to fundamentally change the economy. And if this happens, it's bad news. Now, she hasn't made it yet. She has to be nominated. We'll see if that happens. But you better be paying attention, because if this does, it's fundamentally changed. Let me know what you think. Is this the scariest thing you've ever heard? Do you think she will get nominated and this will happen? Or do you think somehow, magically, it will get stopped? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Of course, as always, give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. You know I'm working hard to find this news, to bring it to you, to help you navigate this out-of-control world. If you want to know more about how to navigate this out-of-control world, I am having a live event. It's coming up very soon. There's a link down below if you want to come join me to find out from 15 of my friends what they think is going to happen over the next couple of years and how to survive it. Some of the biggest names in finance will be there. 2 days, give you all the tools, build, grow, protect your wealth, your personal and financial sovereignty. This is honestly is the biggest thing in a long time. You want to be there. There's a link down below. That's it. Give me a thumbs up on that video if you like it. If not, give me a thumbs down. Leave me a comment. To your success. I'm out.